many times have we reviewed Glacioclasm? And how many times has this fusion rifle continued to be dominant? Every time we review this thing, there is someone somewhere, whether you're a PvE or PvP player, that says, Cross, it's not that good. You're overhyping this weapon. And to those folks, I feel really bad for them. Because as I'm playing these Rumble games and these Crucible matches, and I'm taking my balls out and resting them upon my forehead, I wonder what they might possibly be thinking about Glacioclasm. Guys, this is a void high impact frame fusion. It's got a 960 base charge time, which is a hell of a long time. But if you learn how to pre-charge this fusion rifle, it will reward you better than any fusion rifle in the game. Today, guys, we're going to be going over how to spec this fusion rifle. It has come back to us with some new trade combinations that we want to talk about. We're going to talk about the 3-bolt kill. That is the hallmark for high impact fusions. And then we're also going to talk about PvE rolls. And I know we have other fusion rifles inside of PvE, but I can't tell you how many times during day one raids, day one dungeons, or even in Grandmaster Nightfalls that I have relied on my previous slide shot reservoir burst roll Glacioclasm. But this year brings us some spicier combos. Starting with our first column, we have overflow, slide shot, subsistence, repulsor brace, under pressure, killing wind, and heating up. In our right column, we have reservoir burst, controlled burst, which is a new one, high impact reserves, eye of the storm, golden tricorn, fragile focus, and successful warm-up. Did I mention it gets juicy? First up, let's talk PvP. I will say one of the most annoying things inside of PvP is when I go up against a patient Vooper, the kind of people that knows how to control distance between themselves and their enemies. You know the ones that are constantly pre-charging, and it always seems like no matter what you did, you would just find yourself getting vooped. Glacioclasm does that better than any other fusion rifle in the game. And believe me, guys, I have a ton of other fusion rifles that I love. Whether it's my God Roll Snorri, Imperative Loop, Techian Force, Burden of Guilt, Pressurized Precision, Royal Executioner, the Eremite. But there is something strange about Glacioclasm. It has the ability to just snag those kills. You know, the kind that gets you behind a wall. And you're sitting there wondering, how in the hell did that just happen? I know I separated myself, but it's like those Voop bolts went around the corner and still snagged me. Now, first, I'm going to go over a few of my rolls. First up, this is Under Pressure and High Impact Reserves. A classic roll, but sometimes, guys, it's the classic ones that are so good. You see, the beautiful thing about High Impact Reserves is that it increases our damage up to get the 3-bolt kill at all resilience levels. Not only that, my particular roll right here is a stat monster. Look at that, 83 range. Stability could be a bit better, but that's all right. We've got Under Pressure here. I've got Project Infuse for another +10 in range, Extended Barrel, which helps my range and recoil direction, putting us up at 88, which is why you really don't need a counterbalance mod here to max it out. Now, if I had a range masterwork, we would be up to 90 something, which is incredible. Now, back in the day, it was all about that one-hit kill range. But really what Glacioclasm offers is the ability to just give you that guaranteed kill. You could see the shotgun rushers panicking when they come around the corner because they know that they have roughly less than a second to make a move. And I know that may seem like a long time, but if you're good at pre-charging, this is even faster. Now, Under Pressure originally was nerfed, and I almost wrote it off. I thought, okay, maybe it's garbage now, as Bungie had reduced Under Pressure's maximum accuracy cone scaler from 0.5 to 0.75. However, it feels just as good as ever. And to me, guys, I can tell a difference when I'm not using Under Pressure. And it's in those moments where someone's like strafing a bunch on me or closing the gap on me, Under Pressure will guide my shots. It's always been a good trait. But even after the nerf, it is still very good. And considering the ammo economy inside of PvP, Under Pressure is pretty much always procced. And the same with High Impact Reserves. It too is always procced because you're on the bottom half of that magazine. Now, I know this kind of works against the origin trait on Glacioclasm, which is Amalon Dynamics. This increases reload speed and stability on the top half of the magazine. But considering our ammo economy, I'm never really taking advantage of Amalon Fluid Dynamics. I never have enough ammo in me, but this works to my advantage because both High Impact Reserves and Under Pressure are being procced at all times. Now, for those asking, what about Slide Shot? Is it worth using inside of PvP? Considering it grants 20 range and 30 stability for 3 seconds after you slide. Now, it's a good trait. I just find Under Pressure to be better because Under Pressure improves the accuracy, not just that stability. And considering we're already almost at max range, and if you have that God Roll, you will be at max range. We don't need that extra range from Slide Shot. And don't get me wrong, I think Slide Shot is phenomenal inside of PvE, which we'll touch on in a moment. But the other trait that I wanted to look at was Successful Warm-Up. Each final blow increases charge and draw speed. Now, this is a 37.5% decrease in charge time. This roughly puts us down to a 600 charge time for Glacioclasm, which is scary, guys. You can feel it. The moment you get that first kill, you're ready to go. And honestly, the charge time being dropped so much on a high impact is actually kind of disorienting. It'll mess with you a little bit. It's like, whoa, that's way too fast. Now, the beautiful thing about a successful warm-up is that it does not decrease your damage. Just because it's increasing your charge time doesn't mean it's dropping your damage, which means for Glacial here, you could still easily get those kills within 20 meters at 600 charge, which is crazy. Now, 20 meters is pretty consistent. 21 meters, you can still get that one-hit kill with Glacioclasm, but you gotta hit every bolt. But it's in that 18 to 20 meter range that I still feel comfortable enough to go for those kills. Now, with all this being said, what is the God Roll for PvP? Look, guys, I know I'm being a little uncreative here, but I feel like under pressure, high impact reserves is still the God Roll. And that's because I want that 3-bolt kill. Yes, you can get the 3-bolt kill on Guardians, tier 8 resilience, and below with just a base Glacioclasm. But I don't know about you, but I am constantly running into max resilience Titans. I need something to give me that 3-bolt guarantee. And the 3-bolt is what's so desirable to me. It's that thing that says, hey, we'll reach around that corner and get you the kill. And high impact reserves allows me to do so without messing with my charge time. I know we have liquid coils, but keep in mind that increases our charge time by 40. That even taking into account pre-charging, 1,000 milliseconds is just too long, man. You're giving your enemy too much time to react, to move, to strafe, or to kill you with their own special weapon. And again, the roles that I like are roles that can guarantee me the win in my once. Now, successful warm-up is fantastic in 6v6, right? For following up kills. You get that thing going, you could turn around and just start vooping everybody. Actually, the biggest issue here was just reloading. You've got 6 seconds to make a move with successful warm-up, yet what I found myself doing was reloading and losing out on that perk, which is why slide shot plus successful warm-up may be better for a 6v6 weapon. But again, guys, for me, high impact reserves, under pressure, it has been tried and tested for years, and it is still one of the best trait combinations for PvP. Now, for my PvE players, things have gotten a bit spicier. Last year, I stated that slide shot reservoir burst was the God Roll. A lot of you said subsistence was the way to go, and yes, I do like subsistence. But what you find is that in-game content, especially GMs, you're gonna need more than one shot from your fusion to get the kill. You see, against trash ads in lower-end content, subsistence is amazing. But when we start dealing with meteor targets, especially targets that have shields, you're gonna find yourself not proccing subsistence because you're not getting the kill, which is why slide shot is so amazing here. Simply sliding will top off your fusion rifle again, therefore proccing reservoir burst for you. And yes, reservoir burst is still such a good perk. 25% increase in damage that will then cause enemies to explode on death. Now, there's another trait there in that first column, which would pair very nicely here, called overflow. Picking up special or heavy ammo automatically loads this weapon beyond normal capacity. Now, the beautiful thing about overflow is that every single round, past the point of its base magazine, will be proccing reservoir bursts. Listen, guys, I love slide shot. I think slide shot's really good, but I think my new God Roll for PvE is overflow. Having that many rounds, all with reservoir bursts, without having to worry about sliding in engagements, but just sit there and lay on the trigger over and over. It's very good, guys. I honestly feel like my slide shot Glacioclasm roll is going to be retired for that overflow roll now. Now, what about controlled bursts? This is a new one. Landing every shot in a burst grants the weapon increased damage and reduced charge time for a short duration. Now, this is a 20% increase in damage and a 10% decrease in charge time. Now, it was brought to my attention that controlled bursts might not be proccing on Glacioclasm, but we did do a frame count, and it is proccing. You see the damage bump, and on the frame counts, you do see that 10% drop there in charge time. But again, keep in mind, it only lasts for 2 seconds. I like controlled bursts, and I think in DPS scenarios, it's good. And something like controlled bursts with overflow is also a great combination, which takes us to DPS. Base Glacioclasm against Carl gives us a DPS value of 40,556. Now, considering overflow is what we want, everything past this point is going to have overflow accounted for. So for instance, a reservoir burst roll with overflow, proccing multiple shots of that trait, gives us a DPS value of 50,695. Now, what's interesting is that we did this test with controlled bursts, and the DPS pretty much almost matched that of reservoir bursts at 49,597. Keep in mind though, this is only while reservoir burst is procced. The moment we drop below that, our reservoir burst roll is essentially useless, and it's over those prolonged DPS encounters. That controlled burst does come out on top. But guys, let's be real. How many of us are actually using high impact fusions for DPS? We're using it for ad clear. Is really what we're using it. If you want crazy DPS on a fusion rifle, guys, just use scatter signal. That is a phenomenal phenomenal strand fusion rifle for this season, and yes, we are going to be reviewing it here soon. The reason why it's so good is because its archetype is meant for that. Glacioclasm, that's not its thing. Its VOOP is to do high damage against targets with Reservoir Burst, boosting that damage even more to get that guaranteed kill, so that you can get that explosive AoE damage. And its other use is just being outright annoying inside of PvP. So again, I'm not saying you can't go out there and do DPS with a high impact fusion, but it's definitely not my first choice. So guys, that is our review there for Glacioclasm 2023. Let me know in the comments below what you think. This fusion rifle has been going strong for years, and at one time, the only competition Glacioclasm had was Erentil. Matter of fact, Erentil was the king. But after the zoom changes and the zoom decoupling from range, even though I still have my God Roll Erentil, Glacioclasm is better, and dare I say, the best high impact fusion rifle for my PvP players. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.